Hello, everyone, and welcome to Women Who Rock, Voices of Our Leaders. Thank you all for taking time to be with us today. Having gotten to know all the women leaders you will meet today, I know you'll be glad you did join us. Today's event, which is part of Meliora Month, is co-hosted by the university's 2020 Collaborative and the university's new Women's Network. And today's event marks the official launch of the Women's Network. It's the Women's Global Network. The timing of this discussion could not be more perfect, as 2020 is a milestone for women. It is the year of the women. It is the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, and it is the 200th birthday of Susan B. Anthony. As you all know, Susan B. was a prime mover in making the University of Rochester co-ed in 1900. And you know she would think this is another historic moment for women at the University of Rochester. Today, we are fortunate to hear from our university president, Sarah Mangelsdorf, and 6 women deans. I'm going to say that again. Our university president, Sarah Mangelsdorf, and 6 women deans. They will discuss their career paths, their commitments to developing other women leaders, and their perspectives around equity and access for women in higher education. All of that's pretty special to me. I'm Gail Leone. I am a proud Rochester graduate of the class of 1971 and a trustee of the university. I now live in DC, where I'm a senior counsel at Dayton's, which is the world's largest law firm, and I teach at Georgetown Law School. I'm passionate about women's issues and have been my entire life. Advocating for women is very important to me, as it is to all of the women on the panel, as you'll see. Since we have many of the same equity and access issues we had in the 70s when I graduated, I don't plan to take my foot off the pedal. That is why I'm co-chairing the Women's Network, along with Tiffany Taylor Smith, a graduate of the university, the class of 1991. Within the Women's Network, our focus is to celebrate the rich contributions of women all around the world who are part of the University of Rochester family. We are committed to connecting, supporting, and engaging women through our conversations and dynamic programs like this panel discussion today. You will hear more from my co-chair, Tiffany, throughout the event, but let me tell you, she is a powerhouse, fueled by energy, kindness, and smarts. The University of Dayton in Ohio, where she works, is really lucky to have her. She is the Executive Director for Inclusive Excellence, Education, and Professional Development. Tiffany is a born changemaker. Tiffany and I are thrilled to be here to introduce and help moderate this panel of esteemed leaders at the university. These are all women who really rock, R-O-C-K, rock. I won't sing the song. The women who inspire us and women leaders who have risen above many challenges to get where they are today. Their stories are our lessons and their voices speak our truths. You'll hear a lot from them today about mentorship. And the wonderful thing about mentorship is that it is mutual. At any given moment in time, the mentor and the mentee can change. We each always learn from each other. Mentorship will be a key focus of the Women's Network, and we're demonstrating it from day one. My female colleagues on the Board of Trustees have embraced the Women's Network. We have 5 women trustees who serve as committee co-chairs, and all of those co-chairs are paired with younger women. This kind of engagement is a testament to the university's commitment to supporting, developing, and advancing women, a commitment that is clearly modeled from the top down. And speaking of the top, you now get to meet our wonderful president, Sarah Mangelsdorf, and our 6 women deans, Gloria, Wendi, Mary Ann, Kathy, and our 2 newest deans, Sarah and Shevin. thrilled that you are all here this morning, and I really look forward to our conversation. I think I will start with Sarah. Sarah, you are the 12th president of the University of Rochester and the first female president since 1853, which is really amazing. So are we making progress in closing the gender gap in academia?
Yes and no. Certainly compared to when I first joined the psychology department at the University of Illinois as an assistant professor, a department that had 60 faculty and there was one female full professor. And now if I look at the roster of that department, about half the full professors are women. So we've, in certain fields, we've made a lot of progress. When you look at fields in the humanities and some of the social sciences like psychology and some of the sciences like biology, you see lots of progress. But in other fields, I have seen less progress. Fields like economics, chemistry, certain areas of engineering, you see much less progress for women. You also see many more women in administrative roles than you would have found 20 years ago. Just look at the number of strong female deans we have on this panel. We have the first female dean of Simon. I believe Wendi is the first female dean of engineering. And I'm one of 11 out of 65 female presidents of an AAU university. For those of you who don't know, the AAU is made up of the top research universities in this country. So that's, so 17% of us are women. That's okay. I don't think it's great. But if Wendi and Shivan go to meetings of their counterparts in the AAU, I imagine they will find equally poor numbers. However, if you look in small liberal arts colleges in this country, by now there are probably as many female presidents as there are male. So it depends on which fields, what type of institutions you're looking at.
So when you look back at the psychology department that you first mentioned, where half of the women are, of the composition of that group, half are women. How many women of color do you see? And I assume this is still a challenge in academia.
Yes, it is still a challenge. I'd have to look at it's not a very diverse roster. And indeed, I don't think our progress in the academy on racial diversity has come at the same pace. I feel we've made more progress in gender diversity than we have in racial diversity. And it's something we all really need to take to heart and work very hard on. I really believe that we can't just hope that diverse candidates will apply when we have open positions. I believe we need to actively recruit them, because I would say the academy in general, this is an area where we haven't made as much progress as we should and as we must.
And I would agree. I think the corporate America has the same challenges and I think the same responsibilities moving forward. Wendi, I'd love for you to talk, because this is an area obviously with women in STEM, and I would love your perspective on this as the Dean of Engineering.
Yeah, I just wanted to build on something that President Mangelsdorf was saying, that when I took over as Dean of the Hajim School, and I was the first woman dean in the history of the Hajim School, I was told by a lot of people, oh, when you have a woman dean, you'll get lots of women faculty, so it'll be really easy. And my very first year, I sort of believed that myth. And we hired, I think it was something like 8 faculty across the entire school. 100% were male. 100% were majority race. And, it was a real eye-opener that you can't just sit back and expect it to happen. You really have to go out and actively recruit. And since then, we have completely changed how we go about recruiting, and every class that we have brought in since then, every class of faculty we've hired has been almost 50% women. So I'm thrilled to see that we have made a lot of progress, but you can't just sit back and expect it to happen. You have to go out and actively recruit and make it a place that is known to be very welcoming to all sorts of different backgrounds, people from every race and gender, and just to be a very welcoming place that is very supportive and a great place to have your career, because that's what people want to see. They want to see that they're coming to a place where they can really be successful and have impact in the world.
Yeah, yes. I would completely agree with that too. Sarah mentioned I'm an economist by training, and Sarah mentioned the economics lagging in this realm, and it's absolutely true. I ran economics recruiting at Carnegie Mellon for a very long time, and we certainly moved the needle. But you have to be intentional. You really have to be intentional about it. You have to train the committee that is doing the recruiting. You have to hold yourself as the leader and as hold the committee accountable for where they're looking for the pool, how they're evaluating people, and really make sure that you have the sort of the institutional support to be able to make that happen. Otherwise, I think, there will hopefully come a time when it's so much in the fabric of what we do, we don't have to be so intentional about it, but we're not there yet. We're nowhere near there yet. So we have to be very intentional. And it's the same thing as for staff as well. I mean, what I have found is that when I had to hire, when I was at the senior associate dean, quite a few people in my organization, I had to make the recruiting firms go back into the pool. I mean, it was, they sometimes resisted, or it certainly lengthened the process, but no, this is not good enough. There cannot be, I don't believe that in a population of 330 million just in the United States, this is the only pool you can find. Go back and be intentional about it, to the point where we started writing it into their contract that if they don't bring us a diverse pool, that we would actually pull the plug on it. And you just have to really work hard at it, but it needs to be done.
Being purposeful. Tiffany.
You can see me nodding and agreeing. Thank you very much.
I know. That's part of her job at the University of Dayton.
Yes, it's so wonderful to hear you say the things that you're saying. Thank you. I have a question for Kathy. Among this group, you have been in the leadership role as Dean of the School of Nursing the longest. What can you tell us about the evolving nature of women in leadership at the University of Rochester?
Well, thank you, Tiffany, and thank you for not saying that I'm the oldest one, which I'm sure is also true. But I appreciate that. I've been with the university since 1986. And came as a master's prepared nurse practitioner, and my rank was lecturer. So it took a number of years to move up in my status as a faculty member. And I'm a proud graduate of Sarah's Warner School with my doctorate in education. And when I was first approached by President Seligman at the time to serve as the interim dean of the School of Nursing, and went to my first, at that time it was called the President's Cabinet. Now Sarah has changed that to the University's Cabinet. But Raffaella Barassi, who was the dean at Warner at that time, we were the only two women. And I remember coming into that boardroom and was a little intimidated, only because as a School of Nursing, we're primarily women. And our goal is to really increase the diversity gender for it to have more men in nursing. And so for me it was great to have Raffaella there. Not only that, to serve as a mentor, as a woman leader, but also because she had years of experience of being a dean. And so that was a gold mine for me. And Raffaella and I knew each other very well prior to my becoming dean. So that was really nice that we'd had a friendship first. We'd already had a mentorship relationship, but then to come into, to the leadership role and have someone of her stature be there. And as you can see from just the screen, we have multiplied for sure. But in addition, we now have a woman who is the chief financial officer. We have a woman who is the head of communications. And we have a woman who is the chief legal counsel. And so, we've taken over, so, which has been positive. I do just want to say, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that in addition to, other celebrations we're doing this year, this is also the Year of the Nurse that the World Health Organization designated. It is the 200th birthday of Florence Nightingale. And we'll be celebrating the 100th birthday of our inaugural dean, Loretta Ford. She turns 100 in December. So we have a lot of celebrations to happen this year.
Well, I mean, given everything with the pandemic, this should be the year of the nurse.
Right,
We should be celebrating all of our nursing.
Right.
Most definitely,
graduates.
yes.
Right. You hear they say that, nurses are our heroes. I said, nurses have always been the heroes. This has just been a nice attention to our profession for sure.
My mother was a nurse. So yes. Each one of you has had demanding academic careers before you took on these leadership roles in administration. And President Mangelsdorf alluded to the fact that there has been an increased number of women in academic leadership roles. So Gloria, I remember walking down the beach with you at a board retreat when you had just become named the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. And I don't think I knew you well enough at that time to ask this question. But can you tell us why you decided to pursue a position in academic leadership as the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences? Was it something that you always imagined for yourself, or was this something that you just later decided you wanted to do?
So thanks, Gail. And I remember that walk on the beach incredibly well, because that's when I feel like, that was mentoring 101 from you to me. It was great. So I view myself as coming into leadership reluctantly, or as a reluctant leader. I was asked to think about chairing the Department of Biology after I had been here just a couple of years. And I said no. My initial reaction was, no, I'm not going to do this. Everything is going great. I love teaching my classes, my research program. And then the chair would come in and other faculty would come in and we'd have these conversations. And I started thinking, what do they see that I'm not seeing? Like, what potential are they looking at? Why am I reluctant? And I ultimately agreed to do it. And I actually loved being chair of the department. I was the first woman chair of bio. And then I was very, very fortunate to be asked to be, like Kathy, the interim dean, because I felt like I could put my toe in the water and not jump off the end of the dock, right? I could see what it was like to be dean without actually having to make that commitment for 5 years or some larger amount of time. And again, I really found the position incredibly satisfying. I also, by then, there was Kathy and there was Rafaela and Marianne. There were various women's deans that were part of the network that were hugely helpful. There were board of trustee members who would, go for walks with me and sort of help me figure out the lay of the land. So what I take away from my experience is I had to ask myself, what were people seeing in my possible leadership that I wasn't seeing? And how can I get out of my comfort zone? And now that's what I use when I try to mentor younger women, is I try to push them to sort of think about those same questions, to think about, what is it that I'm seeing or their colleagues are seeing, or, somebody in NIH is seeing. And so I think that it was a personal journey for me, and I am so happy that I was willing to take it and that I had the opportunity to take it. And I really hope that I'm just moving that forward with other young leaders.
Yes, Kathy.
I just wanted to make a comment. We've been meeting as a leadership group almost daily, sometimes 7 days a week since COVID started. And the one thing that I see in Gloria all the time is just her courage to ask the tough questions. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, what I didn't know Gloria before she became dean, but she is the one that asks the tough questions. And I think that is a significant role as a leader, to have that kind of courage.
Thanks, Kathy. This is the support network, right?
and Sarah's got to manage the whole thing then too. So it's a challenge, I know.
Yeah, I just want to jump in and amplify something that Gloria said about reluctancy to be in that hierarchical leadership role, which seems to be something that's more dominant in women. Mm-hmm. And I see it more and more that younger women are more apt to want to jump in, and that is such a great thing. I love their passion and their boldness. I wish that I had that. I was in a leadership development program for the Association of Research Libraries, and there were more men than women in the program, even though we're a predominantly female profession. And when they discussed about whether we wanted to assume this role, a dean role, most of the women were very reflective and had the same approach as Gloria. We were thinking about, the wait and see, and we didn't see it in ourselves. Almost all of the men were, yep, I'm going for that. And I just thought that was so interesting. And that reluctant leadership, we just needed somebody else sometimes to see it in us to go for.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And we all know in the positions that we hold that it's that support and that networking that continues not only to propel us to the positions we're in, but to sustain us and support us while we're in them. So thank you. 7, as our new dean of the Simon School of Business, can you talk about how your own experiences have influenced your leadership style and how they affect your thinking about more inclusive policies?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Tiffany. When I reflect back and I think about, it's a useful exercise to do, when do I, or at least most people I know, do our best work, right? When do we get to really shine? And it's when somebody gives you the trust, the support, and the direction, and then let you do your job. So I think in a nutshell, that sort of describes my leadership. I don't like to micromanage. I like to advocate. I like to trust and support. They can always come to me if they hit a snag, but I really want them to own and believe in themselves and go ahead and really take charge. I think that's when I do my best work. That's when I see others do their best work. To be able to make sure that we do actually have some inclusive policies and also give them the opportunity, give people, especially women who do come into a lot of roles reluctantly, right? That how do we actually advocate for them? Especially within my academic career, I had many male mentors who would say, this is a joint project, but I want you to go and do this presentation because I want people to hear from you. I want them to see how good you are. I want you to shine and you can do this. At first it's really nerve-wracking. You're in front of this, tough crowd, and you have to definitely build that tough skin and to be given positive and also, constructive feedback afterwards. You answered this question very well. You could have said this, let's work on this. You can shorten your introduction, whatever that constructive criticism is or feedback is to sit down and work with somebody who really believes in your ability to better yourself and to be given those opportunities to shine. I think hopefully I can emulate and continue to emulate that kind of approach in my leadership style as well. And as for inclusive policies, I'm so glad you asked me that question because I've spent my entire career actually doing economic policies that are smart policies. I mean, I can go on and on, but in a nutshell, I think we need to do smart policy. A lot of times when we design policies, they are either, a little bit of tokenism is in them, or we have the best intentions at heart, but we don't actually strike the right tone. For example, there's been a lot of changes in terms of childcare policies, now that we have give access both to women and men for the same childcare policies. And we have research that comes out and that says that, it actually hurts women. It doesn't help women because a lot of men, and again, on average, we're not talking about everybody, end up using that time to be able to further their research careers. And actually women end up using it to take care of children, and the same thing is true. There was a lot of movement in academia about doing sort of joint hiring. Diversity candidates were jointly hired into 2 departments with funds from the central administration. It's a disaster. What do we see? What does the evidence say? The evidence says that those folks end up belonging both places and really nowhere, being tapped to do double the committee work, being tapped to do, adjust to two different styles of working. So when it comes to inclusive policy, and as I said, I can go on because that's my sort of area of expertise, at least from an economic setting, is that we are an institution of learning and scientific discovery. We need to do smart policy and really sort of test out to see, what does it tell us? Does it really include people? Does it really sort of make the burden? And are we doing tokenism? I'm profoundly against tokenism. So
thank you, Devin. Thank you. Dean Peyre, I think there was something you wanted to add. I just want to make sure we capture that.
Sure. I could listen. I love what Shevin just said about smart policies, but her first comments about how mentors were pushing her forward to give the presentation, to do something, made me really think that it's important to think about both mentorship and sponsorship. And in sponsorship, something a little different. It's what happens outside when you're not with them, when they're not in the room. And I see women in Rochester doing that a lot. And I try to think about what that is. It's about how do we advocate for the people we care about, that we're growing and we're seeing and developing and giving them opportunities. And I don't want us to miss that point, because I think that's important if we're thinking about our work culture and we're thinking about growing the next group of leaders, is how do we sponsor them even when we're not meeting with them one-on-one and coaching and encouraging them.
And I think it's so important that we make sure people understand the distinction between being a mentor and being a sponsor. And I thank you for saying that, because it's one thing to support someone as they're making decisions, trying to navigate their career, but it's also for women who are in positions to open doors for other women, to be able to advocate for them for promotions, for additional responsibility, for positions that advance their career. Thank you. Gail, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, and that's part of what we're going to try to do in the Women's Network. That is really our hope and our aspiration, is to be able to develop this network globally so that there will be mentors and sponsors for our graduates all around the world. Although I do hope, Shevin, that you actually will teach a course on inclusive policies, because I think it would be fabulous to have all of our graduates understand that distinction. Sarah, I have a question for you about who in your career was a significant mentor and or a significant sponsor. So I think that would be interesting from the standpoint of education school.
Sure. Well, I do have to admit, one of them is on this call right now, and is Kathy Rideout. Kathy Rideout has been a true mentor and sponsor for me since I came to the university in 2011. I had a really interesting role. I used to say I was the zebra amongst the stallions over in the medical center, because I was anchored in a department of surgery that was male dominated. And not only was I not a surgeon, I wasn't a physician, but I was this interesting educator, whatever that meant, and had to kind of really find my own way. And I actually had a wonderful mentoring relationship, still do, with Dr. Susan McDaniel. I don't know if any of you know her, another strong female in Rochester. And she was gracious enough to be a mentor and mentored me regularly. And I remember a story she told me early on. And of course, I'm not going to say it just how she does, because Susan just has magic words. But I'll tell you what it meant to me. I was talking about how I was so excited I was going to have another opportunity. And she was pushing me to think about, how does this fit into my portfolio of activities and what am I doing? And she said, Sarah, you have to be careful about the tent poles that are being handed to you. And I go, tent poles? I don't camp, Susan. What are you talking about? And she's like, tent poles. She goes, often women, but really young, hungry, capable, smart people, an organization will recognize your talent, or people will recognize it. And they'll start handing you these tent poles, and you'll like it. And your tent will get wider and wider, but you never get taller. So think about what tent pole they're handing to you, and how is that growing your capabilities? How's that growing and stretching you? And what does it look like under your tent? What kind of tent do you want to build? And that has just really stayed with me as I was in this very organic space of kind of growing my career. And it's an analogy I now know that I use when I mentor others. And I give them advice, especially women who don't know how to say no, right? We say yes because we think that's our capital. We think that's how they're going to keep asking us to the table, and eventually we'll work our way up to the big table if we just keep saying yes. But saying yes strategically, saying yes to the right things and thinking about your tent is something that's stayed with me.
Dean Peyre, thank you so much. That is definitely insightful.
Yes. And negotiating, that's another thing women don't do, right?
Right.
We just sort of, somebody gives us an offer, somebody gives us a position, whether it's in the financial or the role or anything like that, or the opportunities. We don't negotiate. We just think, oh, this has been handed over to me and I'll just take it as it is. So on average, that sort of, how do we empower women to really negotiate for what they need and what they want? I think that's an incredibly important sort of skill and confidence building exercise that we also have to do together, and for the sort of the generation that's coming behind us, that we don't have to say yes to everything that's been handed over.
President Mangelsdorf, is there something you wanted to add?
Just that I accepted my first job as an assistant professor at University of Michigan without even knowing what the salary was. They just called me on the phone, offered me the job, and said, "Great, I can't wait to come." That's not called negotiating, by the way.
Well,
Gloria, you had something you wanted
in
to.
that same light, I was the interim dean for about 8 months when the CFO for the school of nursing said, I didn't notice that you had any salary increase with this role. And I said, I never even asked. I just knew there was a need. And when I went to the then CEO and I said, I noticed I haven't gotten any raises, and he said, I was wondering when you were going to ask. And I think it is that whole it was not part of my bandwidth to negotiate for salary. I was wanted to jump in and help the school of nursing. I was committed to the school, and it really had not entered my mind. So you're absolutely right, Shevin. We do need some help with that.
Well, it's funny that I'll never forget when I took my first general counsel job with a large insurance organization that was based in Atlanta. And when I got the salary offer, I thought about it, and I picked up the phone and called one of my clients, who was then one of the very senior people at Kimberly Clark. And I said, I think I need to come. I need your advice. I need some coaching. And so I went and talked to him, and he was great. He said, these are the things you should be asking for, and don't hesitate to ask for them, because it's definitely within their wheelhouse and capability to give you those things. And he said, in every single dollar over whatever the amount was, it's going to be hazard duty pay. And just remember that. And I remember that to this day. But if I hadn't gone and asked him, I would have probably just said fine and signed it and sent it back. And so he taught me that it was very important to go in with the right package, and taught me how to negotiate and what I should be asking for, and what was really something that all the guys would be asking for.
Exactly.
And so I think to that point, that's another course we probably need to be teaching in our business school.
Almost definitely. And it's not about an age thing either. Like I did the same thing with my University of Dayton position, and I'm still kicking myself, but it's the only, after my first job out of college, this was the only transition I had. So it's a continuous learning process.
Yeah.
Dean Culver, you have something you wanted to add?
I just wanted to add that I think that, having this panel of women deans, right, we need to help each other, and we are helping each other. And I think being resources for one another, as well as resources for the people that follow us or that we're trying to sponsor or mentor along. And I know, having a dean of the Hajim school that is in meetings with me every day, most days, multiple meetings, and somebody to bounce ideas off of that comes with a similar sensibility has really sort of changed, I think, the way we think about a lot of things. And so I just think that we don't do it well, and we need to teach each other as we're going through this, how to do better. And then that will help the people that follow us, hopefully.
Wendi.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little plug that we actually have workshops that we now provide to our undergraduate and graduate students on how to negotiate. And these are put on by the Susan B. Anthony Institute and our Gwen M. Green Career Center. And our next one is actually coming up at the end of October. So for all the students out there, this is a great reason why attending those workshops is such a great opportunity for you to grow and practice some of the negotiation skills that really will serve you well going forward. So I just wanted to put out there that we have recognized this as an issue on campus, and we have done a number of workshops over the last couple of years focused on both alumni in the local area, because we used to be actually on campus and doing things on campus. Now that we're online, we can open those up to a lot more people.
Yes.
Gloria, you raised also a very interesting point, and there's been a lot of study that's been done of that, about the number of women voices around the table and how that will change the whole discussion. When I was sort of the first, until I had the second and the third around the table with me, my voice would not be heard, really. And when the second senior female joined that group, and then the third, there was a complete change in the dynamic in the room. And I know that our dean of our business school can talk about that, I am sure. But there have been a lot of studies that have been done. So having 6 women deans and having the number of women, Sarah, that you have in your cabinet as part of the administration, whether it's the general counsel, the CFO, the other women that are there, that really does make a huge difference in the discussion, and it's an important point. So I think it's terrific.
Yes. I mean, talking about negotiation, which we do also, it's kind of like our bread and butter as well in the business school. We certainly teach it to all of our master's students. And, the other thing is that the other thing we see is that women take on a lot of roles that are more, it's sort of a defensive move rather than an offensive move. This goes back to Sarah's point about the tent poles, right? We're giving this role and there's something to fix, and we're afraid that somebody else is not going to fix it if we don't fix it. It's like, no, do not fall into that trap. Is this really what you would like to do? Is this really going to advance your passion for whatever work that you are expected to do? Do you think you will be able to, given the position and the tools and the authority and the support, to be able to make the impact that you're interested in making? Not because you're afraid that somebody else is not going to, or that, we tend to have this sort of fix it tendencies, and again, it's think about where to go, where you're going, and whether that's really it's in your goal set rather than being defensive about it.
I think when I was listening to you, Gail, talk about voice, I'm reflecting that I still feel I am new in this leadership role as a dean, and I'm not sure if I've found my voice yet. If you would have known me 6 months ago, a year, you couldn't quiet my voice. I was very confident. I was in my space. I knew what I did. But I now get on these Zoom calls when you don't have that personal interaction and that personal feeling. I met one of my faculty members recently, and he said, I had no idea you were 6 feet tall. And I said, it's because I'm so demure in Zoom. And you don't have, we don't have those connections, but finding your voice when you do get a leadership role and you get into another sphere is really important. And I just have to tell you, there's this power of the women on the screen right now, where Gloria will send me a private chat in the Zoom going, I love when you talk, keep giving your voice. So there's this encouragement. Shevin and I can go get wine on the back patio because we can be like, what do you think about this? And what do you think? I mean, the networking piece of then reconnecting and helping you and bring out each other's voice. Yes, I think what we hear is different when there's lots of women around the table, but the power of the experienced women and where we are developmentally on that is so important too, that I think we need to be cognizant of. And I'm so appreciative of this network represented on the screen.
So Sarah, in the education school, are you focusing on that? I know that you've spent a lot of time working with our faculty just on how they present themselves on Zoom and how you engage the students in discussion in class. And I know that you've done just a fabulous job. We heard that at the board meeting in preparation for this change with the pandemic. But I'm curious whether women's voices and whether you are coaching women in particular in connection with how they present themselves on Zoom.
You know what? I think we should. It's interesting, much like Kathy, the schools of education traditionally have been faculty have been well represented. And at Warner, we actually have a nice mix between our male and female faculty. And we don't have an emphasis right now on female leadership within Warner, but I think that's something that we should think about, because communication and our ability, people believe what you project. And so helping project with confidence is something that's really important. The Zoom piece, I mean, everything from thinking about your background behind you, so it's not distracting, but supportive. And I think all of our wardrobes have evolved, but we haven't looked into that too much. And I'll tell you, it's because we're still in the throes of COVID and what's happening along the continuum of education. I think we're so worried about the learner experience. We haven't gotten to the polish yet, but I think that's coming. But our hearts are just still with the learner experience, whether it's the kindergartner who's trying to do things on Zoom, or the University of Rochester who has these hybrid courses and is having to think about time management and their social and emotional connectivity in really different ways.
But I do think this is going to be with us for a while. I mean, not just because of pandemic, but I do think that the Zoom offering creates yet another forum where you can have interesting discussions and share ideas. And part of what we're going to be doing with the Women's Network, I mean, it's sort of fortuitous in a way that we're in this zone right now because of that. But we want to have a global network. And so this is a great way to be able to share those ideas and create those relationships on a global basis. So I hope you do look at that, because I think it would be terrific offering for women, because I do know that there is a difference in just the hesitancy to jump in, the conversations sometimes on a Zoom call.
I think I've heard President Mangelsdorf say, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yes.
This is a disruptive innovation. It's not either or. It's let's have this transform us, and let's hold on to the good about it, right? As we move beyond, and then we recapture the parts that we miss. And
teach to the good.
Yes.
Yeah. Mary Ann, was there something that you wanted to add to the discussion?
Yeah, as I was saying, we're a female-dominated profession as well, and as such, most of our management team and senior leaders are women in the library. And to speak to Sarah's point, we don't have that inhibition with the male-female equation, and so I'm finding that our management team is strong, it's powerful, and it's bold. And we love when people negotiate. So they're developing, I believe, these really wonderful skills that when they do get in more senior roles and the balance isn't as tipped towards female, they're in a very supportive environment already. So that is one advantage. And we're just seeing some incredible leaders, and I can't wait what they're going to continue to do to make an impact on the university.
Absolutely. President Mangelsdorf, was there something you wanted to add? I wanted to make sure I got that before I move on to the next question. Okay. All right. You kind of leaned in. So in Zoom, watching and moderating a panel is an exciting opportunity.
She's admiring all of her deans.
Yeah, really thoughtful things they're all saying. I'm finding it fascinating. I love it.
Awesome. Mary Ann, this question is for you. Beyond your role as Vice Provost and Dean of University Libraries, you've actually written a publication on mentoring relationships. What advice would you give to students and young alumni who feel like they don't have anything to offer to mentoring relationships?
Yes, thank you for that, Tiffany. Well, I think we've heard such great advice already on the call, and I'll try and sum of it up. Young alums and students are often hesitant to reach out to a more seasoned professional to, forge a mentoring relationship. I think they feel that they may be rejected or they have nothing to offer in their minds. In fact, most people who are approached to form a mentoring relationship are quite frankly honored to be asked, and especially you are alums, as we heard from Gail. With the board that are stepping forward to mentor students. Your alums are really eager to engage with our students, and they're really, eager to have a meaningful connection to the UR. And you're probably doing them a service to reach out and ask them to be in a mentoring relationship. I would give a couple of areas of advice and perhaps some insight as well. Be prepared. I mean, it's such an obvious point. There's a higher success rate of you getting in a mentoring partnership relationship that's beneficial to you and each other if you do some research ahead of time and talk to your faculty, talk to your peer network about who might be a great match for you, and of course, use the Green Center for career education. However, think about the outcomes you want in that relationship, because it's not really just about having a chat, you know, every time you meet and amble about in that conversation. It really ought to be, I think, goal-driven. Like, what are these outcomes that you want to really forge your career and prepare you professionally? Know that these relationships, as Gail said, are mutually beneficial. And I used the word partnership a couple of seconds ago. I think they're actually mentoring partnerships. They're mutually beneficial. Each will gain in this relationship. In fact, a mentor will find it really, quite frankly, intrinsically rewarding to work with you. And in these relationships, especially when you have a more seasoned professional with a young alum or a student, the student and the young alum are, in essence, mentoring up, because they're exposing the more seasoned professional to the world in which they live and work, their perspectives, their opportunities and challenges through their eyes. And quite frankly, we're learning all the time from these relationships. So don't think you have nothing to add to the relationship. And the part of the intrinsic value to a professional that mentors a student or a young alum is that we get to step back and think about our career in an intentional way. What are our values? How do we translate things like culture and tacit knowledge that are a little more ambiguous, but are so, essential to our success? And we do everything we can to help in that mentoring relationship. And the mentoring partnership, to me, is an opportunity for you to develop your career, your professional identity, your network. And in fact, that book that you referred to, Tiffany, it's really an active guide. And when I was approached to write that, I reached out to somebody I was mentoring at the time and invited them to co-write it with me. That helped them to think about the relationship, but more importantly, they started to forge their professional identity, and they had their first publication. Lastly, I don't think these relationships are a once and done. They really are about multiple mentors at every stage of your career. I think it's a wise investment. Things are way too complex. The pace of change is way too fast to rely on one person throughout your career. So think about a constellation of mentors throughout your career. It's really one of the best things that you can do.
With that advice, which I think is fabulous, I'd love to hear from each of you about who has been a really critical mentor to you, and or a mentor relationship with somebody else that you thought was really successful. I think it would just be amazing to hear from all of you on that. Kathy, why don't you go first? You had your hand up.
Yes. I was going to comment when Marianne said about, the multiple mentors, because I think it was, Shevin or Gloria had commented that, we wear multiple hats. And so, the number of mentors really reflects this number of hats, and so, someone can, be more influential in helping you navigate your family responsibilities as well as your work responsibilities, your leadership. I'm also a clinician. I, work as a nurse practitioner. And so there's, clinical mentorship as well. But I think for me, Harriet Kitzman, who was our Senior Associate Dean for Research in the School of Nursing, who unfortunately passed away this year. She was really a mentor of mine from the very beginning when I came to the University of Rochester, even when I was trying to figure out what doctoral degree I wanted to have, and really guiding me in some of those decisions. And I think the most important role she served in our mentorship responsibility was she was a good listener. So, she would be able to sit back and listen to what my concerns were, listen to, what my goals were, and then guide me accordingly. But I think the best advice she ever gave me, when we used to have the old calendars that were the paper calendars, I would sit down with her and she would say, let me see what your calendar is for the next week. And I would open it up and she'd say, I don't see that you've scheduled any thinking time. And I said, thinking time, I have this, I have this. And she said, no, you need to schedule thinking time because it is just as important as every other activity that you have going on. And she said, because you really do need to give yourself that time to sit and think about, what your next step's going to be, what your next project, what your goals are, what your concerns are, and really give yourself that thinking time. And so that was really a precious gift she gave me, was always keeping that in mind.
Wendi, how about you?
So yeah, I've had a number of mentors throughout the years. And I think especially important was, actually my dad was probably my first mentor because he was an engineer and he was a very successful engineer. He actually designed some of the technologies that led to Siri that we all use every day. So he worked on speech communications and he had 3 daughters. And so it was never, why you shouldn't be an engineer. It was, why wouldn't you be an engineer? This is such an exciting field to go into. You can have real impact. Why wouldn't you? It doesn't matter who you are, what you do. Everyone should want to be an engineer. And so to me, that was really inspirational. And so I never saw roadblocks. I never saw why you can't and why you shouldn't. It was always why you should and why it would be so exciting to be in this field. And then, as I got into the profession, I started going to conferences, and I think Shevin was talking about this as well, where I remember my very first conference I went to as a graduate student. I got this nice red suit, a little suit, it was a skirt suit outfit, and I went and sat down in the auditorium, and I looked around, and I realized I stuck out like a sore thumb because back then everyone wore suits, and it was all men, and they were all in these like dark suits. And here I was in my bright red suit thinking, I'm going to my first conference, and I totally stuck out. And so, I realized that there's just not, it was just, there was just no one else there who was, very, very few women at the conferences. And so one of my very first mentors was someone who was in my field when I became a faculty member. And she was a couple years senior from me, not too much prior to me starting her career, but very passionate about getting more women into the field. And I realized that because I had some wonderful mentors here at the University of Rochester. I started at the U of R in 2001, wonderful mentors, but they were all men because my department was all men. And so they gave great advice and they were absolutely fantastic. But I didn't get that women's perspective on things. And so I started talking with this woman who was at the Colorado School of Mines, and she was just phenomenal. And I realized sometimes you just need to have a perspective of someone who's gone through things. Like when I had my first child and I was trying to figure out, how do I teach while pregnant, especially when you're really, really pregnant and your ankles are swelling and there's all these things. How do you nurse and how do you pump while you're at work and juggling all these things? Having someone who's gone through that before is actually really, really helpful. So she and I became really good friends, and she was a great mentor. And we actually decided to start a community called Networking Women. So our field is in wireless communications and networking. And this is a community of, and men are part of this as well, of anyone who wants to promote more gender equity and supporting women within our field. And it's a completely virtual organization, but we get together at all of the main conferences that we have, and we have professional development sessions. We'll hear from outstanding women in our field, how they got to where they are, what they see as the research directions that people should be thinking about, and we'll have mentoring that happens at these sessions. And again, it's an entirely virtual organization, but it's now supported by a number of companies. Google supports it, and Microsoft has supported us, HP has supported us, as well as some of our professional societies. And we now have over 2,000 members in this group that started about I guess it's now, we're 15 years old.
Fabulous.
And this has continued on, and students tell us that this has been so impactful, because now when they go to a conference, we always start with these networking women meetings. So before they even go into the conference, they've met people, they know people, they have connections, and throughout the conference, they can use those connections to help them get the most out of the conference. So it's been really, really successful. So one of the things I take out of this is to have people think not just about mentors who are close to you in terms of it in your unit or in your school, but think about more globally, that now we have the ability through Zoom and through our communications technologies to connect people who are not physically close, and how can we take the best advantage of that?
It's also a pipeline for us, which
Yes.
is great. Before we go on to hear the mentor story of the next dean, I have to ask you, what happened to your other two sisters?
We have a doctor and a lawyer.
Okay.
What is that classic joke? A doctor, a lawyer, and an engineer got together.
That's so great. Sarah, tell us about your mentor experience.
Sarah, number one, President Mangelsdorf. I think you called on her. Yes, sorry.
Oh, you called on me. I didn't know. I thought she was calling on you.
I'm looking. I guess you can't see that I'm looking at you.
No, it's hard to tell who you can't.
See, that's why we need this course.
Right. Oh, I was reflecting on the comment that Marianne made about networks of mentors, because I think throughout our lives we have different mentors who have a profound influence on us. One of my graduate school advisors, Megan Gunner, has been a mentor sort of throughout my career, and I still to this day have a little notebook that's in my office, which goodness knows when any of you will visit me in my office again, but it's called, she wrote it for me as I was leaving graduate school. It was called 100 Ways to Say No, because she was worried I'd take on too many of those tent poles and not really build a usable tent. And then when I was an assistant professor at the University of Michigan, a number of women invited me to join a women's group where they were trying to, I think, nurture me and themselves. We would read one another's papers and grant proposals, and I would ask them questions like, when's the best time for me to have a baby? Should I do it as an assistant professor, or should I wait till I get tenure? And one of them said, Sarah, if you wait for the perfect time to have a baby, you will never have a baby. So, and wise advice like that. So, and they've continued to be friends of mine throughout my life. And so at every phase, there have been people who've been invaluable. Just this week, I learned that a friend of mine from Evanston, Illinois, who would have been 104 next month. She was one of the first women to go to Northwestern Medical School. And I met her when I was Dean of Arts and Sciences, because she was an Arts and Sciences graduate. And we became fast friends. And she would always say to me, okay, so what are you going to do next? You've been a dean, you were a dean at Illinois, you're a dean here. 10 years of deaning is a lot of deaning. I think you need to move along. Come on. You're going to be a president somewhere. I tell you, you're going to be a president. I said, why me? And she was one of the people that was pushing me along. She goes, well, because if you don't do it, who else will? I mean, so that was her. She said, that was my attitude about going to medical school. And so I think throughout my life, I've known some great people, men and women, who supported me. And I try to do the same.
We have your colleague to thank for your saying yes when the search committee called you to consider being president of the university. The other Sarah.
Well, I already shared about Susan and the tent poles. I probably should stop there, but listening to about these networks of mentors, I think that's really important, because when I talk with young faculty, I think they're trying to find one person that's going to be everything for them, and that doesn't exist. You need a team, and you need a team that evolves and changes with you. And sometimes that's local, but I agree with Wendi. Sometimes getting out of your organization can help give you different reflection back to you. So when I think about my Harvard Macy experience, which actually was a professional development experience that put me in, and it was all about mentorship and helping develop And I meant some peer mentors there. We always talk about looking up to someone who's one rung above us, because that's great for the aspirational, but sometimes the hunger and restless heart syndrome, I call it, of us peers who are all trying to find our way can really be this wonderful mentoring experience as well. And even though I did that program several years ago now, I still have monthly calls with my women who were in my cohort with me, and they keep pushing and champion, and our careers are going directions I never would have predicted, but knowing their journey helps me reflect on my own journey, and that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dean. It's interesting. I always call it my personal executive board. So I have people, friends, colleagues that I've known over the years, even some that I don't necessarily know, who maybe have skills that I don't have strong passion for or interest in, but need those skills and can help give me a different perspective on something that I need, particularly as I find myself in different situations, navigating different opportunities as well as issues that come up in the course of my career. Dean
Tiffany,
Culver?
you know, the Wall Street Journal has a regular column on personal advisory boards. So they'll have a CEO or somebody who's successful in doing something, and they'll ask who their personal advisory board is. And it's always fascinating to see. It was actually in the Wall Street Journal this morning, I think it's in the exchange section, but it's always very interesting to see who they consider to be their advisors. And it's a full range.
Yep. So
Shevin, I think you,
go ahead.
Shevin, I think you were gonna say something.
I'll
We want to hear.
I'll wait my turn.
Gloria.
Yeah, so my story is not that different. I, like Wendi, was as a graduate student in a field that was relatively male-dominated, biochemistry and biophysics. I was giving a talk as a fourth-year graduate student. Very, very big meeting. My first talk. I hadn't published a paper yet. The project was tough. And I gave this talk and I thought it was horrible. And I was in the bathroom and this woman approached me and starts talking to me. And we walk out and, slowly this light bulb dings in my head. This is a National Academy of Science member who is, scooping me under her wing. And she and her group of friends wrote this book called, I think it's Every Other Thursday, Successful Traits of Women Scientists. Mm-hmm. They were doing this during the 60s, and it was a very different thing. And, these are people that I still see at scientific meetings that have really worked to sort of hold me up and make sure, there's like a protective net when you need it, to make sure you feel included, that you're not, you're not the only woman sitting in the front row waiting to give your talk, and that somebody is looking out for you. And so I think that's been hugely important. And I've also had some amazing male mentors, right? So it doesn't have to be women to women. I think it's just people that understand your sensibility. And, I walked into this dean's office when Peter Lenny and Rich Feldman were still here as deans, and they were totally two different individuals. But I feel like that, I won the lottery, right? Because I got to learn from both of them in very different ways about how to lead. So I think that there's, again, it's sort of get out of your comfort zone and seize the opportunities and look for your mentors in all sorts of different ways, but also be willing. We talk about, we're all are juggling, or I like to say that I'm plate spinning all the time because it's more than 3 objects. So, but also be willing to take on that mentoring role, because we all know how important it is, for our personal development, but it's a two-way street.
Seven, I think I'd love to hear your mentorship.
Yes, so I think a lot of the what's been mentioned really quite resonates, possibly because we all come from sort of the path of academia to our current roles. Like Wendi, I have a family member. It's actually my older brother, who is by far my biggest champion. As soon as I got this job, he was all over the internet on social media advertising me, which my CMO thought was really touching and cute. I'm like, is he too much? Should I tell him to call back? It's a little, but he was all over. He was grinning, ear to ear for weeks, and WhatsApping. He lives in Singapore, WhatsApping me in the middle of the night. I'm like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and you know, what are you going to do? What's happening here? I mean, he was so excited. So having people in your corner who are really excited about your accomplishments, and then also be there when you actually, you know, stumble or make a mistake or feel bad about some presentation or some decision you've made or some feedback you got, you know, that is really, and I completely agree about the constellation or the team concept. You know, I've had some incredible male mentors when I was just a PhD student, and those were my advisors. When I first got my job, it was actually somebody who was my peer, just like Sarah said, who's now a lifelong friend. We talked a lot about, you know, he helped me sort of navigate the first teaching assignments, and he used to come into my office and say, Yaltikin, you need to have passion in your eyes. When you say inflation, you need to have tear in your eye, you know. So there was, you know, there was a lot of, like, I could talk to him like I could not talk to necessarily somebody who was much more senior than me. And it was just so, it was fun, it was useful, it was empowering, you know, those things are really, and I learned a lot. When as a senior associate dean, I actually had a head of the MBA program who reported to me. You know, this is the other piece of it. It's sort of, you know, mentorship doesn't have to be this sort of either lateral or upward. It's, you know, I learned a lot from her because she was both a faculty member as well as somebody who was navigating the organization and had a lot of people reporting to her. So a lot of managerial skills I actually learned by watching her as well as other people, and I could have conversations with her that I couldn't have necessarily with, you know, with other folks. And so there's a whole world out there, whether it's family members, people who have really been in sort of supervisory position to you, as well as people who have, you know, who are your peers, and people who work with you and who are, you know, lower in the organization than you, that you can learn from and that you can bounce ideas off of. So, you know, it's sort of, mentorship should be that more, you know, larger group. But I also want to touch on one thing, if I can have 30 more seconds, is that I don't want to make assumptions, but given that I only recognize my own accent, I might be the only foreign, you know, person, a non-American person on this call as well. And oh, Mary, are you Canadian? Yes, okay. So so I come from Turkey, and the other piece of mentorship and other piece of sort of networking, since we touched upon the global network as well, you know, it's a very male-dominated culture, still continues to be. Although the education piece is done really well, a lot of women get very highly, you know, educated in Turkey. Female participation in the labor force is dismal. Anybody who's above the age of 30, especially if they have kids, it's something like 25%. I mean, I used to joke that I might be the only one working or something like that. Like, it's, you know, I am the statistic. But what is really amazing about that is that there's a shared experience. So you can also, this is reaching out beyond your organization and beyond your even field of study, is that as soon as I got into various roles, you know, forming sort of networks with other Turkish women or other women who come from sort of Middle Eastern cultures like mine, where there are not that many women in various positions, and connecting with them. And social media now and a lot of sort of virtual settings makes that much more possible. Being able to sort of, you know, belong to these groups, talk about your experience, talk about their experience. These are also great, I think, support and learning opportunities that, you know, we can certainly help foster and we can participate in.
Thank you, Shefin. I have the last question for President Mangelsdorf. Given that we are celebrating some historic milestones for women in 2020, why is it important that we prioritize equity and access at the University of Rochester?
Well, you know, I happen to believe that equity and access are important whatever year it is. And these are really issues I've been working on my whole professional career. But I do think Rochester, New York has a special place in history, both in the abolitionist movement and the suffrage movement, thanks to Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony, among many others. And as you know, it's a legacy that we in Rochester are very, very proud of. You know, I live on Mount Hope Avenue, and we have all these banners that hang of historic figures from Rochester. And of course, both Sue B. and Frederick Douglass are in Mount Hope Cemetery. And so we're proud of that legacy, but it shouldn't just be a legacy. We owe it to ourselves and the nation to continue to push forward racial and gender equity issues in our society. I believe COVID-19 has only highlighted the terrible disparities we have in this country. And we, as a place of higher learning and knowledge creation, need to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I do think Susan B. would think that this program was really terrific, and she would think that our looking forward is as important as our celebrating her 200th birthday. So thank you all. This has been terrific, and you have given Tiffany and me some great ideas for the start and the kickoff of our women's network. It has just been absolutely fabulous. And for those listening, these are amazingly accomplished women. Their full bios are in the links that were attached to your invitations. And please go and look at those. We decided we'd rather have a conversation and not go through biographical summaries, but please access those, because you will find connections in those, I am sure, and ones that you can pursue with them. I think we've made history today. We have a lot more history to make, but I think we did that today, and I cannot thank you enough. Tiffany?
Again, I want to echo Gail's comments in closing and just thank you so much for sharing your time, your stories, and your insights. I'm truly inspired, and I'm going to add thank you, Dean Peyre, for the tent poles. I've got to, in some ways we talk about cultural taxation. I'm like, I like the tent poles. That speaks in so many ways. And thank you, Gail, for kicking things off, for being my co-moderator, and for being my co-chair with me every day on the Women's Network. I learned so much here today, and for me, the conversation underscored how important it is to have these both formal and informal networks in our lives. I've been a huge believer of that, and it just continues to reinforce that for me. Both provide opportunities to build relationships, and they each enhance our careers and our lives as well, and those that are in our lives. We seek to provide the same kind of opportunities within the Women's Network to connect women, support them in their personal and professional growth, and give them the power to engage with others and the university. That is, I think Gail and I, if you ask us the one thing that we're most passionate about in doing this, that's really what it is. And it is quite powerful that we're able to come together as women and to be able to do this for each other. And we know good things happen. I certainly felt that here today. We look forward to talking with you more about the Women's Network. You can learn more about us on the university's website and join us on the Meliora Collective. We'll put the links of both of these in the chat. In the meantime, though, please reach out, ask us questions, get involved. We want you, we need you, and we are here for each other. We know that we can always do more together. Before we wrap up, I want to let you know about a few things coming up. As you may know, today's events help kick off Meliora Month. It's not just a weekend in 2020, it's a whole month. I encourage you to participate in the full range of fun and intellectually engaging programming that will take place virtually throughout the month of October. One such event is the university's Women in STEM panel, which will take place on Friday, October 9th. This panel discussion will feature a Nobel laureate, executives from Facebook and Ancestry, and our very own engineering deans. To learn more and register for this event and others, go to uofr.us/Meliora Month. Finally, stay online for a short survey. The link for the survey will appear on your screen at the end of the webinar. Select Continue to get to the survey. Please fill this out. We really do value and appreciate your feedback as we plan our upcoming network events. And with that, I will close and say thank you and enjoy the rest of your day and weekend. Take care.